Tūwauwai takahi. Haere mai ki aho, i mani a poto e. Haere mai I ngā herenga, ki te moenga pukeroa. Ko taku raurau I tia haere, maringi kai whenua. Ko taku raurau I tia haere, maringi kai moana. Haere mai ki aha, ki mani a poto e. Haere mai I ngā herenga, ki te moenga pukeroa. Ko taku raurau I tia haere, maringi kai whenua. Ko taku raurau I tia haere, maringi kai moana. Haere mai ki aha, ki mani a poto e. Te torohanga o te whenua, te torohanga o ngā ringa. Ka whakahua mai I ngā kururuhi, I ngā kukoro heke. Mai te awa whakarite ki tongariro, te nehenehenui e. Haere mai ki aha, ki mani a poto e. Te torohanga o te whenua, te torohanga o ngā ringa. Ka whakahua mai I ngā kururuhi, I ngā kukoro heke. Mai te awa whakarite ki tongariro, te nehenehenui e. Haere mai ki aha, ki mani a poto e. Haere mai ki aha, ki mani a poto e. Hei!
Kahika o te Nehenehenui, e mihi ana kia koutou katoa I tēnei pō. Welcome I te whānau, welcome to another engaging Puna Kōrero o te Nehenehenui. This evening streaming live on our platforms, Twitter, on our Whare Kōrero app and on YouTube, and right here on our MFM Facebook page. So glad to have you guys on board. I'm your host for this evening, Leon Hemera, and happy to be back in the hot seats for this evening's discussion, and I'm really excited. And it's almost fitting, e te whānau, that I'm back to host tonight's, because we have a special panel of rangatahi from right here in Ngāti Maniapoto, and let's see who we have with us tonight. Tēnā rā koutou ngā rangatahi. Welcome, e te whānau. Thank you for coming in to our Puna Kōrero o te Nehenehenui. Nō reira, kei te mihi, kia ora to you all. Tēnā koutou. Everybody's ready to roll for this Puna Kōrero this evening. But as we do, let's have a bit of a ko ai koe. No fear koe. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around the squares. And from my view here, Luke is in the next one next door to me on this side. So we'll start with Luke and then we'll carry on around to our squares. Just a ko ai koe, no fear koe. Kia ora, tēnā koe, Luke.
Ka pai, kia ora katoa, ko Luke Moss tuku ingoa, no tēnei no te iwi o ngā iwi. I'm sure everyone will agree with me, Ngāti Maniapoto, no Ngāti Rora hoki. Kia ora everybody, I'm a kaimahi at the University of Waikato at the moment, and I also sit as a generally elected trustee on the Maniapoto Trust Board. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, Luke. Glad to have you on board, bro. And next we've got Maya. Tēnā koe, Maya.
Kia ora koutou, ko Maia tuku ingoa, ko Ngāti Hori ki Hawe te hapu, ko Ngāti Kahungunu ki Hiretonga te iwi. I am going into my third year as a photography student at Tōrero Whārangi, that's Massey College of Creative Arts. I dabble in a lot of research projects, mostly kaupapa Māori, and I do mentorship work for the university for fellow Māori tauira, and that's me.
Kia ora, tēnā koe mai. Glad to have you on board with us this evening as well. Let's go around to the next square. Kei a koe maringi, tēnā koe.
Kia ora everybody, ko Maringi ki te tōku ingoa no Marakopa, Taharo me Waitomo Oku Tupuna. Engari e noho ana au ki Otorohanga. Kia ora everyone, my name's Maringi and I'm at Waikato University studying a Bachelor of Laws.
Kia ora, tēnā koe maringi. And next we've got Shelley, tēnā koe Shelley.
Tēnā tātou e te iwi, he ri tēnei no Ngāti Maniapoto, no Piopio me Otorohanga ahau. I'm currently the project manager in Whanake Taio for the Maniapoto Māori Trust Board, and I'm also studying part-time at Te Whare Wānanga o Waikato, studying towards a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in Māori and Indigenous Studies.
Kia ora, tēnā koe. And finally, we got Ngā Mira, tēnā koe bro, kia koe te wā.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Ngā Mira Kopa tōku ingoa. He urio no konei, no Ngāti Maniapoto, me ngā hapu maha. I currently work as a support worker down at the Maniapoto Whānau Ora Centre, and I'm also in my second year of my degree, which is Te Pau Whakarara Oranga, the Bicultural Social Work degree at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. So kia ora.
Kia ora, tēnā koe bro, o tira kia koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou, thank you for those mean, quick intros, and e te whānau at home. Tonight is very, very, very special, not only because we've got all these rangatahi on here, but this is probably our biggest Puna Kōrero that we've ever hosted with this many guests on. So it's going to be a good night, and I think the discussion is going to be mean. The meanest one we've had so far. And speaking of the discussion, the kaupapa for the kōrero tonight i te whānau is how our rangatahi are navigating this COVID world, because we've been talking in our past Puna Kōrero of how different from a tribal perspective, from a medical perspective, but we haven't really touched on our rangatahi. So tonight's a good one. It should be a special one as well. So that's what our kaupapa is for tonight. So since we've done all the intros, let's get straight into the mahi. And first of all, the first question that I would like to ask is, have any of our whānau actually had COVID, or know anyone that have had COVID closely, or deal with people that have close contacts with COVID in your mahi, in your whānau, or anything? Any of our whānau? I can see Luke shaking his head. So kia koe bro te wā, tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe Leon. I've had a few of my friends or whānau have COVID, or they've been in close contact of COVID. And I've always been like the next step, and then they've normally come back negative, or so I've never have to really go get a test. I have a couple times just to make sure. But yeah, do have a bit of a few people around me at the moment who have COVID or are locking down because they're a close contact. I think with the Omicron and everything spreading, it's a guaranteed, the stuff is going to happen, and you're going to know some more people. Yeah.
Kia ora, bro. Tautoko your kōrero. Yeah, I agree with you. We've got to be very, very careful, and sometimes it could be a matter of time, because the Omicron is spreading fast. As we saw from the numbers today, we're well over 1,000 cases now per day. So it's at those times. So tautoko your kōrero. Luke, I can see Maya putting your hand up over there. You've got a kōrero to add as well. Kia koe, Maya.
Well, I actually work part-time in an MIQ facility, so that's in an isolation hotel. So I'm in close proximity with COVID patients all the time. And we have really strict procedures to make sure that isolation and quarantine guests are kept separated from each other, that we as workers are protected and safe, because there's no way that we go into that space and take it out in the community. I get tested daily. I work probably like 5 times out of a week, and I have to take tests every single shift, so that I'm constantly on top of knowing whether or not I have contracted or virus. So it's pretty full on stuff, but I'm kind of used to all of that now. It's kind of become the usual for me, the norm to be around it. Yeah.
Man, daily tests. That's pretty hard out, all right. How did you get into that mahi mai? Did you put your hand up, or did you get asked to do it? How did you get into that mahi?
Yeah, well, I had a mate who worked there who hooked me up with a job. Obviously, I live in the capital city. You need to work to be able to pay for your rent here, especially over the summer when you might not have your student loan. And this was a job that I was almost guaranteed to keep, say if we went into a potential lockdown, and that was before we went into the traffic light system anyway. So it just seemed like a good way to go, and I was good hours, and so I took it on, and it's been all good. Scary at first. I had the handies as COVID anxiety, but now it's kind of steady and just you're used to it.
Yeah, totally. Tautoko, that handy as COVID anxiety. I think we've all had a touch on that. So yeah, definitely understand where that kōrero is coming from. Okay, I've got another pātai that I'm going to put out to our panelists. And I'll come to you, Ngā This one's for you, bro, and then we might shift this one around as well. But how has COVID-19 impacted your situation specifically? And bro, I know you've been involved in kickboxing and all of that sort of mahi, bro. So how has it directly impacted with you and your mahi, bro, and your lifestyle?
Yeah, it was quite interesting at first. I think it was, when it first kind of hit our area, I think it was a bit of a wake-up call for a lot of, myself anyways, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, that, I had to actually rethink a lot of the stuff that I was doing in terms of trying to keep myself safe and so I could keep my whānau safe. But yeah, it just meant just to be extra vigilant, things like that. I mean, with kickboxing, I actually had to close down while everyone was in lockdown, obviously. So it was actually quite hard to get any consistency in terms of even my mahi. It was hard to maintain a kind of a flow. So I mean, it's only been the beginning of the year this year that I've been able to kind of pick those things up. So we've got the kickboxing, we've got other programs running at mahi now, which we're able to do safely. So yeah, it's been hard, but I mean, as you know, we make do with what we got, kind of thing. So yeah, it's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Kia ora, bro. I was almost expecting you to say that with you've gone from kickboxing to virtual kickboxing and live Tekken tournaments or something like that. So it's good to see it's good to see you're still in touch with the physical one, bro. This is just for our whānau that are watching and just tuned in at the moment. I see a wave of you have just tuned in. E mihi ana kia koutou katoa. Welcome to our Puna Kōrero o te Nehenehenui, talking to these mean as panelists of rangatahi and talking to them how they've been navigating the world of COVID tonight. And don't forget, e te whānau, you can leave a question in the live chat in our Facebook. So pātai mai, put your questions in, no matter how in the gate or out the gate they are. Put them in the box and we will do our utmost best to answer every single question that comes in. Also, if you are asking a question, you will go into the draw tonight to win a $100 warehouse voucher at the end of this night. So whānau, pātai mai, bring them all in, put them in the chats, and at the end of the night, one of you will be walking away virtually, could be, with this $100 warehouse voucher. So kia kaha koutou. Right, let's get our questions, keep running around. And this one, I'll actually ask the same question for you, Chalet. With your mahi involved with the paiao, how has COVID impacted you and your mahi specifically?
So it hasn't really impacted me heaps as of yet because I've just started with the team. So I'm only just getting up to scratch with the projects now. However, when the red light setting did kick in, we were it was preferred that we worked from home. So the only thing that was annoying really was listening to the quad bikes and the dogs and the tractors outside my house while I was trying to work. But other than that, it hasn't affected mahi too much. So yeah, that's me.
Kia ora, kia ora. And I'll direct the same question to you, Maringi. You've been at Te Whare Wānanga o Waikato. You know, what's it like going to kura? Is it different? Is it, you know, what's it like wearing a mask and kura and all of that sort of stuff? So, yeah, how's it impacted you?
I feel like that's a good question, but I think firstly I should probably acknowledge the amount of privilege that I actually have during these times. Like I have access to Wi-Fi, I have a space where I can study and maintain focus. Like I live with whānau, so I don't have to worry about like rent increasing or getting kicked out of my flat during my time at study. So in all honesty, lockdown hasn't impacted me in a negative way. I know that, you know, there's a lot of Zoom fatigue, and I think in terms of, I feel like a lot of tauira will agree that it's actually quite hard to engage online and actually want to participate in class, and for our teachers as well, it's really hard for them to provide kind of like a rich experience. I feel like Luke will probably be able to talk with that. So yeah, overall, lockdown for me has been not too bad because I just had like a lifestyle that has afforded a lot of flexibility in that space. But yeah, so overall, it's been actually quite positive for me.
Tēnā koe, Maringi. That's a good answer. And I bet your mum and dad are watching and thinking, man, I'm proud of my girl. So tēnā koe for your kōrero. I want to come back to the same question with Maya, because Maya, you talked about your photography and that sort of stuff. So how has COVID been, especially with the social distancing and all of that sort of stuff? So how's it impacted that part of your life?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult, and I can speak for all artists and creatives. COVID has hit us hard because we generally interact with people. As a photographer, I'm meant to interact with people, and this has put quite a halt to it. Going to a school where it's all real hands-on, and you know, you're wanting to use the facilities, the studio spaces, it's real hard to navigate. But I got to give it to my lecturers and the university for coming up with the best possible solutions for the scenarios that we're in. I have also, it's hard for our tauira because I have had to do ring-arounds for my job to make sure that tauira are well equipped for COVID, make sure that they have the right equipment that they need when we've gone into lockdowns, and sometimes they don't. So the university is good in the sense that we do try our best to provide those for students. But yeah, as an artist, you know, I've had exhibitions been postponed. I've had, you know, book launches cancelled. So it's been pretty rough, but we make do and we just keep on going. Yeah.
Kia ora, kia ora. Okay, so I've got another question that I have right here, and I'll start with you, Luke. And the pātai is, bro, from a rangatahi perspective, what do you make of the government's handling of the current COVID situation here in Aotearoa? What do you think, bro? Would you handle it in any different way? And I'm glad I've got this question because I could potentially be talking to a future prime minister right here in this Puna Kōrero, I reckon. I definitely would be. So, yeah, we'll start with you, Luke, bro. What's your whakaaro on that one, brother?
I'm giving Amira my vote for Prime Minister, but my whakaaro around the question is, man, sometimes I think the government are sort of making the plane as they're flying it. You know, they're a bit of like a rangatahi trying to make fry bread for the first time. They're just winging it. They're just chucking in a bit of extra flour, bit of extra oil to make it work. You know, but what else can you do when every day, you know, something's happening with COVID? It's always evolving. You're getting, you know, we thought we had it sussed, and hello, got a new variant coming out. So I think they're doing the best they can for all people, to keep most people happy. But I do think because, you can't do heavy research on such a small amount of time, that a lot of the decisions they're making are just off on the cuff, which can be tricky and might not be the best for some people. But I do think the decisions they're making they're good for the majority. But what else can you do when, like I'm saying, every single day you're just getting flooded with new information from overseas and in Aotearoa. So they're doing an all right job, I think. That they're not doing a mean job. They're not doing a bad job. I reckon they're just in the middle. Just a lukewarm, I think, in the middle.
No pun intended in that one, eh? Lukewarm one, just quietly. Kia ora, bro. Good answer, actually. And I want to direct this one to you, Chalet. What's your whakaaro on the current government's decision making and all of that? Just what do you reckon? How does your waka sit with the decisions at the moment?
I'd have to agree with Luke. Like, I'm not on either side of the waka trying to rock it, but I sit in the middle. I think they're doing the best with they're doing the best that they can with the information that they do have. And I know you can't please everyone, as we can see down in Wellington, what's happening down there. I feel sorry for our whānau as well that have chosen not to be vaxxed. But I'm just at odds with it. But I think that the government is doing the best that they can with what they know and what they have available to them.
Kia ora tēnā koe. And that's it's all over social media. We know that these whānau going down to Wellington and these whānau already down there to stand and fight for rights. And kei te pai tērā, e pai ana tērā. And since we're talking about the way the government is dealing with things, you all know that the Speaker of the House, Trevor Mallard, has had put some things in place down there to try and deter these whānau that are going down there to protest, and in particular, the setting up the speakers and playing those songs back to back. And I want everyone to answer this question, and I'm going to ask you guys: if you were down there and you were protesting, what would be the song that you could not hear anymore that would make you move as a protester? Ngā mera, I'm going to put you on the spot, brother. You're first. Kei a koe.
Probably Jingle Bells, eh? Yeah. Because that song plays too much during Christmas, and it brings back some not so good memories when I used to work in retail. So it'd have to be Jingle Bells for me.
Kia ora, bro. What about you, Chalet? What's your song?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't know if I probably, if I just heard it over and over again, then I'll just dap it. But
Any song?
I don't have a specific song that I can think of right now. Sorry.
Ka pai. Maringi, what's your song?
I think, I don't know if it's an actual song, but Coco Melon. I don't know, if you're around Tamariki, man, they can go 24/7 for them. So if I heard that, I'll boost.
I thought you were going to say any song that your dad plays in the truck, but kei te pai tērā. Maya, what's your song?
Baby Shark.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that one's been played over and over again. So I think it's sort of half working, but they end up just dancing to it. So they're having a good time down there. What's your song, Luke?
Any iwi anthem that's not Maniapoto, I reckon. I'll just have enough. I'd have enough.
Tūturu, eh? Tūturu hard this fella. Ka pai, those are all good answers, actually. Very, very good answers. We'll come to another question. And we're going to talk about lockdowns. We've all been in lockdown. Some of us too much. Some of us more than others in this panel. So as you fellas individually, it's been crazy times. But what has gotten you through the lockdowns? What have you picked up that you never used to do before, or maybe something that you have done before? But what got you guys through the lockdowns? And we'll come back to the bottom. We'll start with you, Maringi. What's got you through the lockdowns?
I guess for the most recent lockdowns, actually, I was able to return home. And that was a big thing for me, especially because I was close to the moana. So I think returning home gave me the ability to connect with the taiao, be closer with my whānau, spend actual time with them. And so I feel like those like how Luke Moss was talking about that fried bread combination, like those two things together was like the perfect lockdown for me to cope with the strain that this kind of pandemic was putting on.
Kia ora, tēnā koe maringi. We'll come back to you, Chalet. What's got you through the lockdowns for the last 2 years?
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate actually to live on a farm. So whenever I got bored, I'd just go for a walk on the farm or go out and help my dad just muster some sheep or whatever. Yeah, the only thing that was hard for me during lockdown was being away from my whānau who are in Otorohanga and Piopio, the township. But it was not being able to see them was the hard part. But other than that, lockdown wasn't too bad for me.
Yeah, tautoko that one. I suppose we are glad that we have Zoom and stuff like that. But we've all probably clocked up 1,000 and 1,000,000 Zoom hours already. So it was good to get back and see our whānau, kānohi ki te kānohi. Ngā mira, what about you, bro? What's got you through the lockdowns?
Probably all my Netflix shows I've been watching, to be honest. Nah. It's just been mainly just my whānau, my partner and our little one. They've kept me on my toes when I've been locked down with them. So it's been some good quality time spent with them. And also I worked through most of our lockdowns as well. So I mean, if I was not doing my mahi, I was doing some sort of study. And we had like virtual wānangas on Zoom and that for studies. So yeah, I always had something to do, which got me through. It's when I got nothing to do, that's when I get a bit tired and I'll just stay in bed and sleep all day. Kia ora.
Kia ora, brother. Kia ora. Same question for you, Mai. What has gotten you through all these lockdowns?
Honestly, same as Ngams for my whānau. My lockdowns have been all over the place. I spent one in Te Kuiti, I spent half of one in Palmy with friends, I've spent some in Hastings. But in all of those places, I'm privileged enough to say that I had people who made it feel like a home, who fed me. That's mean. And yeah, I just was always felt at home in those spaces when things got bad with COVID.
Yeah, tautoko. And finally, with you, Luke, what's got you through those lockdown times, bro?
One sentence for you, Leon, bro. The tribe has spoken. Me and my partner got into watching Survivor, the TV show. Oh man, it's good. Australian season just come out, whānau. So if you want to catch up, it's playing weekly. I never really liked that show, and then we sort of just watched a few episodes, and I was like, "Holy heck, I'm addicted to it." Yeah, very good season. If you're locked down and you got time to spare, chuck on some Survivor series.
You reckon you'd be the winner?
Who's your pick, bro?
Too, maybe. Yeah. Oh, nah, I think I'd be horrible at Survivor. Definitely a physical threat in the game. Yeah. I'll move on. Next question, please. I'll talk about Survivor all night, and then everyone in the comments will get hoha.
Survivor for the win, whānau. There you go. Jump in and watch some Survivor. Okay, let's get back to our kōrero. We're going to talk about vaccinations, and especially amongst our rangatahi. And truth be told, we are lagging for vaccinations within our rangatahi. And that's just real. That's real talk. So what are your guys' whakaaro on why do you think that is? Why do you think that our rangatahi are not going to get vaxxed? What do you think those hurdles are, or what are those obstacles? And we'll come back and start with you, Maringi. Question for you, Kea koe.
I've actually kind of had a little think about this question because me and my mum were having a kind of wānanga about it before, and I think it's not the fact that we are rangatahi, therefore we're young and we're reckless and things like that, but more if you kind of look at how the vaccinations have been set up. They prioritised frontline workers, the kaumātua, people that were working in the health sector, so we were already kind of behind the ball in terms of even having the opportunity to become vaccinated. And I feel like that's a big factor. And another big factor that I think is during that period of time where, you know, we weren't able to get vaccinated, we're the biggest audience in terms of social media. And if you think about the amount of messages that were put out, you know, get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated, especially, you know, oh, these people have gotten vaccinated, they had such a terrible reaction, you know, getting fed all these kind of messages throughout that period of time. Of course, you're going to see like a big lag in terms of rangatahi willing to become vaccinated. So yeah, I think that's kind of a big consideration that should be made, and definitely not because we're young, but because of these other factors. And I know that there'll be many more that I kind of haven't listed. Well, going all like passionate on that one question, but that's how I feel.
Hey, that was a good answer, though. You know, we got deep, but not too deep, which is really good. But yeah, I understand your kōrero, the maringi, and there's some definite truth behind it. It's all over social media. Sometimes it's too much on social media, and me myself, sometimes I just have a rest from it. Sometimes just to have that whakatā, you know, to make your own decisions up and do your own sort of research. So yeah, I do understand that kōrero. But speaking of kōrero, we're going to get this Puna kōrero on the road. People have been putting in their comments in the comment section, and we've got one first out of the box. So let's have a look at our first question. And this one's from Debbie. Tēnā koe, Debbie Ngāwera Peka, the MP. Tēnā koe. And her question is, what's the most positive strength you've learnt about yourself since COVID? And we'll let everyone have a jam at this one. We'll start with you, Maya. Tēnā koe, kei a koe te wā.
A little think about this. I think I've realized just how resilient I actually am, and I think a lot of us are. That despite the fact that we're quite literally living through history, the world is in a pandemic, we're still chugging along and we're still making ends meet. We're still like out here trying to do our best for our people. And so for me, yeah, it's the resilience that I've found within myself. Yeah.
Tēnā koe. Mean answer. And same question for you, Ngāmira. What's your whakaaro on that one, bro?
I was sort of on the similar waka to Maya there, but I would say a positive strength that I've learnt about myself since COVID would have to be just how powerful our mind is, really, or just like on the terms of resilience. You know, it's what you make of it, kind of thing. It's all in our mind, and yeah, that mindset of having positive, you know, telling yourself positive affirmations and all of that kind of stuff, almost like manifesting that positive stuff. Then more than likely the situation, or you know, your life, the way you see it, is going to be positive. Rather than, you know, it's so easy to get shrouded in that kind of that space where our mode is quite low. So if we, you know, always keep things positive, no matter what the outcome is, then I think that, you know, will be, yeah. So I'm going off the waka a bit, but yeah, just how positive we actually can be is a strength in itself. So kia ora.
Kia ora, bro. Definitely tautoko your kōrero. Positivity can go a long way, you know, and it's infectious. So when you start spreading that positivity, your whānau start catching on to it. And that's the beautifulest, you know, that's the most beautiful thing that you can do with it, actually. So tēnā koe, bro. That's a very good answer. I'm going to ask Chalet now. What's your most positive strength that you've learnt about yourself since COVID? Tēnā koe.
One strength that I've probably learnt about myself and pretty much the whole country really is our ability to adapt to change. You know that like COVID disrupted our whole world and how it all functioned and everything, and everyone just had to adapt to this new way of living. And I think we did a pretty mean job, like if you're considering the state of our country, but compared to others. But yeah, that was one of my ones too. I'm such a planner. I don't like taking risks. I don't like deviating off the plan or anything like that. But this just made me realize how adaptable I can actually be when it requires me to be. So that was a big one for me.
Kia ora, kia ora. And same question for you, Maringi. What's the most positive strength you've learned about yourself since COVID?
I wish I could just copy and paste what everyone else has said because I've said it so beautifully. But I think, and I'm not saying this just because she's from the Māori party, but being Māori, it was definitely a strength because there's just so many beautiful principles within like our culture that enabled me to kind of push on through COVID, like i.e., connecting back to the taiao, learning about yourself, about your whakapapa and things like that.
Kia ora, tēnā koe. And finally, Luke, other than having survival skills of all the survivors continued and combined, what's been your strengths, bro, that you've found since COVID?
Yeah, I think I'll be all good at finding an immunity idol nowadays. But one of the main strengths I think I've discovered or rediscovered is my limits on life. And probably came by in a bad way at first, in a negative way, mental health, had a few days off work, sort of had to figure out in these lockdown situations, in these COVID situations, who am I, what is my limits, how much can I do? And that ended up, becoming into a positive light where now I can sort of know my limits again, say no to certain things. I know how much social time I need with people. I know how much time I need alone and how to sort of get that fine balance so we can live in this COVID environment. Yeah, that's rediscovering my limits was the one for me.
Kia ora, bro. Tēnā koe. There you go, Debbie. And thank you for your question, Debbie. And also tuning in and listening to our rangatahi here. They could be the faces that you could be seeing in your end of your mahi, so in the future. So e mihi ana kia koe e te whaia. Thank you for your pātai. Those of us that are watching at home on our Facebook Live, if you've just jumped in, tēnā rā koutou, nau mai ki te Puna Kōrero o te Nehenehenui. We are talking to our panelists, our rangatahi panelists tonight about navigating this COVID world. And you guys can put questions right into the comments section. And all the questions that come through, we will do our utmost best to answer them. And the people that will go in and put questions in, you will all go into the draw at the end of the night to win that $100 warehouse voucher. So kia kaha koutou whānau, put those comments in. Let's have a look at another pātai out of the pot.
Hi, Deb. If you win, you're my auntie, so you can just chuck half to me, eh? I just wanted to put that out there. Sorry.
My birthday's coming up too, Whai Debbie, so it'll be a board game. No.
Okay. Any nieces of Whai Debbies in here, or we all good? Go to fire. Let's have a look at our next question. Tēnā koe, Ernest. And your question is, how much has it impacted on young people's social lives and meeting up with friends and family? It's a good question. That is a very good question. Let's go back and start with you, Maya. Tēnā koe. Question for you.
Yeah, well, so I started university in 2020, which was when the pandemic hit. So I've never known a year of university without COVID, which is kind of a weird thing, I guess, to think about. And I've never known a social life in a new city and in a new, completely new environment without COVID. And it has been difficult. Like, it's been a hard few years of networking and connecting and finding people, finding my friends. But I don't know if that's normal or not. Like, if it does take time normally, I think it does. And I have found my people, but it's definitely, I do think that not being able to go out into these social spaces and, those opportunities being limited it's had its impact for sure. Yeah.
Kia ora, Maya. That same question for you, Ngamira. What about you, bro? How's it been on the social waves there? How's it been for you since COVID?
Yeah, I think it definitely at first, you know, with the restrictions and stuff when they first were put in place, had quite a big effect on not only myself but all rangatahi and everyone out there. You know, there was no sports, no interacting with one another. So which I believe kanohi ki te kanohi is the way to do it. But you know, when you're told to communicate virtually, it can be quite hard sometimes. Although most rangatahi are on their devices these days. But yeah, I do think that it's had quite a big impact. You know, because I'm not too sure if you've told someone young not to do something, they normally want to do the opposite. So you know, when you're telling them they can't go out, they'll try and find a way. Not myself, I'm not talking about just what I've heard out there. Is that, you know, people will try and find a way to still mix and mingle when they can. But yeah, I just think that as rangatahi, it builds healthy relationships when we get to meet up with lots of our whānau. So yeah, I'm not too sure where I was going with that question, but here we are.
Kia ora, bro. Kia ora for that. And Chalet, you've said you've been living on the farm. You're in the rural community. So yeah, what's it been with the social life down your ways? You know, around P10. How's it been down there with your friends and your whānau?
Yeah, so it has been quite hard, but I think the biggest restriction, I guess, was like the gathering limits and the vaccination status and all that kind of stuff. Was the hardest part for us. And like, as my mates already know, like I'm a sociable kind of gal, so the cancellation of One Love and all those kind of festivals had a big impact on my social life in that way. But I know it's all to keep us safe, so yeah, I understand. But yeah, all that it was quite tough not being able to meet in big groups and
Tautoko, that one. And for you, Maringi, same question. How's it impacted your life, your social life, meeting up with your friends and your whānau?
Just adding on to what everybody said, I think probably the biggest impact in terms of just rangatahi Māori is the closing of all our marae during this time. You know, like that is the heart of, you know, our community and where we get the most like social engagement in terms of, you know, your whānau and things like that. And like restrictions of attendance in terms of tangihanga or, you know, no more pokais and things like that, I feel like is probably what has impacted the most in my life, and I know for many others. So yeah.
Kia ora, tēnā koe. And finally, Luke, for you, bro, how's it impacted yours? Did you have tickets to One Love, homegrown, or anything that's impacted that way? Or how's the socials been with you and your friends and your whānau?
No, had no One Love tickets, but I love seeing the post of everyone like selling their tickets when they cancelled it. I thought it was like they were having a bit of a laugh, but if I'm being honest, I think for a lot of our rangatahi there was no change, or they just had to be more sneaky about how they socialise with people. I think our rangatahi, you know, obviously they know the boundaries, and like what Ngāmera said, if you tell them no, they'll find a way to say yes. So for myself and me and my friends, yeah, there was some changes for students. Obviously, we can't run orientation week. They can't go to these big parties. And it's trying to find a different way to connect because, yeah, Zoom is getting very boring very fast. So we're trying to find ways to do kanohi ki te kanohi.
Kia ora, bro. Yeah, tautoko your kōrero on, you know, rangatahi being the sneakiest. And if there's a way to socialise, you know, we'll find it. I remember my days, you know, 2 years ago when I was at high school, I would find a way. If we were told to stay home, I would find a way. So I know that kōrero, brother. Tēnā koe. Hopefully that answers your questions. Ernest, thank you for your pārtai. You are in the draw for that $100 warehouse voucher. Let's have a look for another pārtai in the box. Elena, tēnā koe. And her question is, how important is time in the taiao during these times for you? How do you prioritize getting out into the taiao or practicing self-care practices? Ngā mihi for that question. That is a mean question. And we'll come right back up to the top to you, Maya. Kia koe te wā, for your pātai for you.
So being in Te Taiao is probably like my biggest remedy, like the one and only thing that keeps me going. I think it's where you feel most engaged with our atua and atua rei, where you feel their presence and where you feel the least alone, I guess, where you can feel grounded. Especially, I find myself gravitating a lot towards water bodies of water, to the beach, to hine moana, and just go there when I feel like I need to cleanse and when I feel like I need a break from everything that's going on, because it's quite a rift, like the COVID anxiety that we talked about earlier. These are troubling times, and so being in nature where there's all of this space and where you can think outside of your own little bubble, I think is real healthy. So whenever I can, I will try to, because it's just me. That's what I like to do. Yeah.
Kia ora, tēnā koe. Good answer for that, pātai. Let's have a look another one into our box for this evening. Tēnā koe, Keith. Thank you for viewing in this evening, Keith. Tēnā koe. And his pātai is having gone through the last 2 years of the pandemic, like this was happening again in 30 years' time. What would you guys do different? That's a good question. I'm looking at you, Ngāmira, to kick us off with this one, bro. I think you've got the answers in your eyes. So we'll start with you, brother. Kia koe.
My eyes that big, eh? Nah, I'm just kidding. Well, I guess, if it's a similar situation where it's something like COVID, there's actually not much I would change with the original plan of attack in terms of trying to stop the spread early and stuff like that. But I think I would be more cautious in terms of the way we treat our whānau, especially like those returnees. I'll put a bit more trust in our whānau, although it can be quite hard to have those home or self-isolation protocols rather than the MIQ, because I've seen a lot of whānau being treated in MIQ, and it's just very difficult for them to navigate that kind of thing. So I think, especially for us, if we know that it's that serious, we know to just stay home and we'll do it. So, that's kind of the only thing I would change, was just that, have a bit of faith and let people decide, Kia ora.
Kia ora, bro. Thank you for that. And thank you again, Keith, for that question. And I'm going to ask everyone this question because it's really, really important. And like I said before, we could be potentially talking to the next Prime Minister within those times right here in this panel. So we're going to move on to you, Chalet. What's your whakaaro on that question from Keith?
So there's probably not a lot that I would change, actually, but if I wish I knew something in 30 years' time, it would be to garden, like to be able to grow my own garden, make my own breads and all that kind of stuff, so you can reduce your trips to New World. So that'll probably be mine.
Kia ora. Some good advice there. Kia koe Maringi, same question. What's your whakaaro?
Probably from the top of my head, I've got two things I'd change. I think probably the first one is, I think the way that the government structured this was like a one-size-fits-all model, but I feel like it should have been done like that. What works for the city isn't going to work for rural communities. What works for Māori isn't going to work for non-Māori, let's say. And then probably my second one, I think it's leaving my head. The second one would be... okay, maybe come back to me. I lost the second one.
Get the fight. We'll keep the train rolling. Maya, what would you do in 3 years' time if you could do something different? What would it be?
I think, maybe this is still something that can happen now, as in changing our mentalities around how we as a people get through these kinds of situations. I think that particularly as Māori, but people in general, we are a collective being, like we are collective people. So the mamae is felt collectively. This heightened anxiety, it's felt collectively, and it's kind of, it creates this ripple effect. So all of the struggles are kind of bouncing and repeating and getting bigger. But while that is kind of a stressful thing to ponder over, I think it also reminds us that our healing is also collective, and our uplifting each other, it should be done collectively. So I'm just like imagining in 30 years' time, like maybe we have papakainga built, or maybe we've got our marae as our stations where our whānau are all together, healing together and working to uplift each other together. I don't know. It's a bit like of a concept, but you know, that'd be cool.
Love that whakaaro though. Love that whakaaro. And I know a lot of whānaus are directing to go back to living like that within those small communities, like in pā communities, back on the whenua, living off the whenua. And yeah, and I think that's mean. So it's along lines of your whakaaro there, Mai. Tēnā koe. And finally, that one for you, Luke. What's your whakaaro, bro? 30 years, it's a long time. We don't have to go there far. But what's your whakaaro?
Yeah, mine would be similar to Maya's in terms of activating marae rather than shutting them down. I think our marae could have played a really important part for healing our people, setting them up as like MIQ. You know, what the difference between sitting in a motel room or at your marae with you know, all your other whānau who are going through the same sickness would have been, you know, a healing in itself, a rungoa in itself. So I see maybe in the future, yeah, our marae has been activated to assist in stuff like this. And again, it was quite sad to see all our marae closed up. So yeah, it might be a bit of a bizarre answer, but yeah, I think we could use them for, you know, for the good for our own whānau.
I like that, bro. Yeah, those all were really good questions. Maringi, I'll come back to you. Did you have one to add to yours, or ke te pai?
It just came back to me. I was like, oh, it must have been good if I mustn't have been good if I didn't remember it, but I remembered it. So what I was gonna say was like messaging to the public. I feel like it could have been a little bit better, because it's kind of in two phases. The first phase was, oh, this is really bad, it's going to kill you. And then the second one was, but we have something that can heal that. But I feel like in terms of the public, some didn't believe the first message, nor did they believe the second. So I feel like that's where we're kind of seeing, you know, the protests down in Wellington. So I feel if they could have made the message or tried a different way of stating it, I think things could have been handled differently or come to a different outcome. But yeah, that's my thought anyway.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, tēnā koutou for those mean as whaka, yeah, those are mean, beautiful. So Keith, thank you for the pātai, Keith, and hopefully you got some good ideas there to turn to our rangatahi. We've got some mean as whakaaro, so tēnā koe, Keith. Let's have a look at another question in our pauaka. And this one's from Mandy, tēnā koe. And the question is, what advice could you give to our rangatahi at Kura who are still trying to find their new norm in these phases / traffic light systems? Yeah, that's a very, very good question, because as we know, Kura just started back not too long ago, and yeah, it's totally different from 2 years ago when I was there. So yeah, what's your guys' whakaaro? And we'll come back. We'll start with you, Ngā Mira. Tēnā koe, bro, kia koe te wā. We'll just get you to unmute, my brother. You're giving the meanest call.
Sorry, my bad. It never happens. No, sorry. But I think my piece of advice would be for rangatahi to just give everything a go. You know, you never know whether or not the opportunity is going to come around again, especially in these times. So just, yeah, give it a go. You might not like it, all good. Try and find something else that you can kind of get yourself into during these times. So, yeah, kia ora.
Kia ora, bro. Tēnā koe. And I want to ask this question as well to well, Luke actually, because he's got his hand up. So kia koe te wā, bro. What's your whakaro?
Yeah, kia ora, bro. My advice would be to change the game for your rangatahi e kura. With these new sort of rules and stuff, new way of learning, means new opportunities for stuff that all of us in this panel never had a chance on. Online ways, being innovative in education, and you guys can start being the future now. With everything changing, everything's online. Man, my little sister's probably at home. She's got like a school on. She's like watching videos on the other one or something. That stuff that our school life was very different. So with those differences comes new opportunities. So I think just take anything you can and run with it and make the change now.
Kia ora, bro. Kia ora. Tēnā korua. Okay, let's have a look at another question in our pauaka, because they're just pumping all the way through. And this one's from Taylor. Tēnā koe. The question is, what type of supports will there be most important for our rangatahi moving forward after this pandemic? That's a really good question. Really, really good question. And I'll ask Maya if she's got a whakautu for this one. So kia koe te wā, Maya.
I know that it's already in the works, but I think we still need to keep on implementing this re-indigenization mentality, so that when stuff like this comes, say in the future, we're ready to tackle it in an indigenous way. So keep on decolonizing our mindsets and keep on re-indigenizing, and using support systems, particularly those that are influenced by our own people's teachings, or looking at our atua teachings, all of that sort of stuff. I think particularly for mental health and everything else, we need to start looking more to a way that we would approach it and infiltrating the system for ourselves. I think it would be beneficial for all, because I know that our support systems currently don't quite fit into our they don't quite mold for us. And so just keeping on looking at ways that we can just do it in an indigenous way. I don't know.
Ka whai tēnā whakaro. And Luke, bro, I want to direct this one to you, because you wear 1,045 hats, bro, but I would like you to put your trust board hat on just for a second, my bro. Yeah, put that one on. And is there anything in the pipeline or anything in the way to help our rangatahi post pandemic at the moment, bro? Anything like that?
Well, in the works is similar to last year. We've been trying to run rangatahi wānanga through the trust. But I guess in the future, within the settlement, there's a seat for intern roles that sit on the trust, which means that whoever's in there should be a rangatahi in there where the decisions are being made. So they're going to know what those rangatahi support systems, or what the rangatahi of them now. I think the biggest support that the rangatahi will need in the future is from us, and we might not know what that is, because we might become a part of this, special reanga that's experienced COVID, and the ones beneath us might not have experienced COVID. So how do we sort of unlearn how to live with COVID so they can get the most out of the world at that time? So yeah. Oh, hopefully that answered your question, Leon.
Yeah, bro. No, that was perfect. Thank you, bro. Thank you for that whakaro from that pōtai perspective. E mihi ana kia koe. Our questions are still coming in hard and fast, te whānau. So, there's still a little bit of time to get some questions in if you want to get into the draw for that $100 warehouse voucher that we'll be drawing at the end of this kōrero. But our next one out the box is from Talisha, tēnā koe. And her question is, after lockdown, what takeaways did you fellas go for first? Now, this is a really important question, te whānau, and I want you to answer this so truthfully with your fellas' hearts. So we'll come back around and we'll start with Maringi at the bottom, and then we'll go back the other way. Tēnā koe, Maringi.
No, nothing. KFC, 100%. Wicked wings, they're the best.
Go the wicked wings. What about you, Chalet? What was your go-to?
I think I was KFC as well, hands down. Yep.
You know, you were
Love
probably
my
at Maringi's house, eh? Having
Yeah,
a
I
KFC together. What about you, Ngamira? What was yours, bro? He's probably giving the meanest kōrero again, my brother, but we just need you to turn your microphone on.
Oh, sorry, I never
One
ever.
language.
That's not. Sorry, but we don't have the luxury of KFC here in Te Kuiti, so I went to second best, which is actually Elvis Bakery. Got me some bakery, bro. Yeah, it was beautiful.
He's
Shout
put
out.
the name out. He's looking for sponsorship, I think, Elvis. So he's put the name out there. What about you, Maya? Down in oh no, you were in Te Kuiti as well through lockdown, but wherever you were, what was your go-to takeaway?
Oh, I know that after the lockdown I spent in Palmy, the first place we went to, we went and got sushi because we missed sushi so hard. Yeah. I don't know. Does that count as takeaways? Yeah, surely.
Yeah, definitely. And you, Luke, what was yours, bro? What was your go-to?
Had to hit that McDonald's, Leon. We just happened to be awake at midnight, and we were like, "Oh, McDonald's is open now." Shot around the corner, but I was craving one of those Elvis sausage rolls, Ngamira, so I hope you indulge.
I got you.
I'm sure I saw the Puna move Vanbo in that drive through that mud. I was behind you, actually. Tēnā koe, Talisha. Thank you for that pātai. Right, let's have a look at another one in the poaka. Amira, tēnā koe. And her question is, kia ora tātou. What advice would you give rangatahi that have experienced fear, exclusion, or division due to these restrictions? Koe pātai. How do we manage the fear circulating in media every day to uplift our wairua? That is a very, very good question. And let's start back down here with Maringi. I'll actually give you all a chance to answer this one. So Maringi, kia koe te wā?
Oh, that's actually a really hard question, in all honesty. But I think if we're speaking about rangatahi in terms of high school or primary school, actually, it's really hard for them because I think they're just having to roll with the punches with what their parents decide for them. So maybe I can't really speak to those that have experienced it, but I think just treating everyone kindly and yourself kindly, because you know your whānau might have a perspective, another whānau might have a perspective, someone might be, being mean to you, excluding you, dividing you because of something that you haven't even chosen for yourself. So just not letting those kind of comments get to you. Talking to someone that you know and trust about your feelings and know that those feelings are valid during this time and actually any time. But yeah, just be kind to yourself, talk to your whānau about it, because I know that everything is very based on the situation and they'll be able to give you advice on what you're going through. And in terms of the media, the best thing that you can do, and I do it all the time, is like I mute pages that aren't aligning with, the mental space that I'm in. I block people, I delete comments and things like that. And also with the media though, everyone's so passionate about Māori that if you see someone making a mockery of us or excluding somebody, that they're going to get blown up on Facebook. So just have faith that they'll work in your favor. But yeah, that's all I can say really.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe, Maringi. And I want to ask the rest of our panelists a question. With social media, and I know we're all on social media, but did anybody put a rahui on their social media in the last 2 years just to block out any of the noise? Did any of you have a social media rahui? And yeah, and how did you find that? Was it good, or did you extend it, or yeah, how did you go? I see you shaking your head, Chalet. How was your social media rahui go when you did it?
Oh yeah, so it was really good for me. I just deleted all the apps off my phone and just spent time in the taiao, just because all the crazy stuff that was happening in the world and in New Zealand itself, Aotearoa, you couldn't control any of it anyway. So I just thought, what's the point of me taking in all of this information when I couldn't do anything about it, like any more than I was already doing by isolating and doing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really good for me just to block out all that noise and not worry about the extra stuff.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You ngā mira, did you have a rahui, bro? Or did you carry on?
Yeah. I have small rahuis because I can't stay away, so I'll like delete it and then probably a couple of weeks I'll come back. But I try my best to have a break as much as I can. Yeah, and just it helps you get back to reality and kind of just get back in touch with what's actually going on in front of you rather than what's happening over in Australia or what have you. So yeah, I do have regular breaks as much as I can.
Kia ora. Yeah, bro, I get you with the but you get lost in social media. Myself, I've been lost in TikTok one or two times. It's just too quick, and it's you definitely need a rahui from that one, especially. What about you, Maya? What's have you had to place a rahui on any of your social media or all of your social media? What's your whakaaro?
Yeah. Yeah, I have gone through phases of doing it. But what I have done more recently, I've done a whole culling of people on my social medias who don't really align with my kaupapa. Now I only really follow creatives, particularly Māori creatives, always, because I think it's really important that we stay engaged online when that's what we need to be doing at the moment to support our local businesses and stuff like that. So like I only try to follow like Māori creatives or Māori small businesses, Luke, you're one of them, just to stay engaged in that sense. But yeah, I think it's really important that we manage what we're seeing and what we're putting out, because we are exposed to a lot and it can be quite negative. It can get the best of you. So yeah, just managing it.
Yeah, definitely put that filter on, and only filter through the stuff that's you just want to see and want to connect with. So yeah, tautoko that one. And finally, you, Luke, bro, did you have a rahui or did you just kahare tonu koe?
Yeah, I think I did the opposite, Leon. I downloaded TikTok in 2020, had a bit of a scroll, and then I woke up today in 2022, bro. But I do find myself posting less on like Facebook and Instagram and just scrolling TikTok because it's less of like seeing political stuff and what's happening and more of just a bit of a laugh. But yeah, tautoko mai, and thanks for supporting my Pākehi. Speaking of Pākehi, I've got a Maya Stevens original here, 2010. So very rare item. Make sure you go and send your love to Maya and book her to do some photos, even if it's just for your Zoom meeting. I'm sure there's she'll be able to screenshot something.
Sure.
Shot for the plug there, Luke. Me, kapai. Okay, we got heaps of questions coming in, so let's carry on. Next one out of the poaka. Next one is kia ora. What could be a silver lining for struggling rangatahi? How could they make something good out of this tough situation? Very, very, very good question. And since we'll come back to Maringi and then we'll go back the other way. So kia koe te wā Maringi.
I think the silver lining. Oh wow, it depends actually who's in your household or anything like that. But for me, it's just this is actually a time where you can spend quality time with your whānau, especially during the lockdown periods. You're with them 24/7, but everyone's got mahi and other commitments that take them away from their whānau. So I think knowing that you're spending quality time with them is probably something that keeps me positive during this time. But yeah, that's a hard one. I don't know what everyone else has to say.
Yeah, kia ora, kia ora. Chalet, what's your whakaaro for that question?
Yeah, so I'd probably say like just finding new ways of doing things. Really, we've become accustomed to having everything available to us. So maybe like instead of like I'm just in terms of business, like I know that it was really hard on businesses and people did have to close down. But I just heard through some stats there were more businesses open during COVID. So like maybe just finding alternative ways and looking at this as an opportunity instead of a barrier. Yeah, that's probably what I'd say.
Kia ora, kia ora. Ngā mira, I can see you agreeing with Chalet, bro. So I think you've got a whakaaro as well, bro. Kia koe te wā.
Yeah, just goes back to the kōrero that Luke shared earlier, that with these new times comes new opportunities. And I think, for rangatahi that are wanting to make the most of, these times is to really think outside the square, as they would say, think outside the box, and come up with their own kaupapa that they may want to lead, their own things. And there's lots of support out there, I believe, virtually, in terms of them getting them up and running. They may want to start their own online classes and or spaces where they can just have kōreros just like this, like how we're having today, or they could do something completely different. So yeah, I reckon just for rangatahi is to not get so caught up in what they can't do, but just look at what the new things they can achieve and do. So yeah.
Kia ora, bro. Tēnā koe. Tēnā koutou. I think we're coming up to our last pātai for the nights. So let's look in the pauaka one last time. Mason is back again, and the question for Mr. Moss. Being in both Hamilton and Te Kuiti, what are the key differences you see in the COVID plans? Now, that's actually a really good question. So kia koe, Mr. Moss. Kia koe te wā.
If anyone was on the last one and I was talking about how my brother didn't fix my car, he's officially fixed it. So it's been 8 months and my car's finally returned. Now we've come full loop if you're on the last live I've been on. But the differences I see is that in Te Kuiti back home, smaller rural communities, everyone's quite nonchalant about rules and scanning in and stuff like that. Where in Hamilton, my workplace is hammering me. We need you need to be scanning in. You need to have your Vax passport. I think because in Hamilton you're mixing with a lot more people like that you don't know. So people are more, they're more scared, or not scared, but they're more careful about scanning in. They're always wearing masks. We're in Te Kuiti. The people you're interacting with are usually your whānau, and you feel comfortable with your whānau. You can trust them. You're not looking at some random person I see in Hamilton, like, hey, where have you been? You've been at a COVID place. But you look at your whānau and you can trust them. So I think that was the difference. It's more of a whānau vibe down in Te Kuiti. Hamilton, it's all everyone for their own, I guess, up here. Too many randoms.
Too many randoms and random whānau, bro? So yeah, took all that one, bro. Glad to hear that you got your car fixed from our last Puna Kōrero. The brother Mason, you've done a mean job, bro. Actually, I've got some work for you as well on my car if you're free. So I might have to get those details. Ka pai e te whānau. Well, we've answered as many questions as we can for the time frame that we've had, and I just want to thank everybody who sent in questions for our panelists this evening. He mihi ana kia koutou katoa, and all of our viewers as well that have been jumping in and viewing us all the way through. It's been solid as. But as I said at the beginning, we are giving away a $100 warehouse voucher for everybody who put a pātai into the box, and that's exactly what we've done. And I think we have a winner now. So let's have a look at our winner for this evening. Congratulations to Amelia Reid. Tēnā koe, Amelia. Thank you for your pātai, and I hope you enjoy that $100 warehouse voucher. We will get a hold of you so we can get that voucher straight out to you. So congratulations. E mihi ana kia koe. So thank you, e te whānau. Thank you very much for all your pātai that have come through, and especially to our whānau, Keith, Debbie Ma, e mihi ana kia kōrua mō koutou pātai, and for listening to our rangatahi, because these are the aspiring minds of today and tomorrow. So we're very, very lucky and privileged to have them here with us tonight, e te whānau. So thank you to our panelists, our rangatahi panelists. You did a mean job. You did all the mahi. I didn't really do anything. I just read stuff out. But you fellas did all the mean mahi. So we thank you for your time this evening, and thank you for your guys' beautiful whakaaro throughout this Puna Kōrero. E mihi ana kia koutou katoa, our rangatahi panelists. Righty te whānau, I think we on the scroller below there will be the vac centres and the pop-ups vaccination centres for tomorrow. You can see them down there scrolling at the moment, and the test centres as well. So kia kaha koutou. But I think, another thank you to our panelists this evening, and thank you for joining me, the rangatahi host of the wā. So e mihi ana kia koutou katoa. That wraps us up. E te whānau for tonight, another engaging Puna Kōrero, and thank you to our viewers on our Whare Kōrero app, on our Twitter, and on our YouTube as well, and right here on our Facebook. It's been a pleasure hosting this rangatahi panel this evening, and who knows, we might get you guys back in another engaging kōrero just not too far down the road. So e mihi ana kia koutou katoa. O tira kia koutou e mātakitaki mai ana ki tō tātou kāinga i tēnei pō. E mihi ana kia koutou, ko Leon Hemera tēnei. This is me signing out for another Puna Kōrero. And just before I sign out, actually, I will go around and get our whānau to do a final wrap and a mihi of our panelists before we cruise off. So we'll start with Luke, and we'll come back around to our others. Tēnā koe, Luke.
Yeah, kia ora katoa, me atu ki tuku whānau o tira ki ngā tangata i mātakitaki mai i tēnei kōrero. Yeah, cool to see people engaging, and I think, well, you know, you always think it's the tail end of COVID, and I hope we're heading that way. So just a few more months, hopefully, whānau, and then we'll start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe. Kia koe te wā Maia. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you to the other panelists. Let's all keep in touch. I think that, you know, the more that we share our kōrero with each other and with the world, the more positive change we can make. We are the future after all. Thank you to our host, Te Wikitori and Ra as well. Ngā mihi, have a good night, everybody.
Kia ora, tēnā koe mai, tēnā koe. Kia koe ngā mira. Kia ora, bro.
I'm not on mute anymore, am I?
Nah, bro, you're all good.
Just kidding. Ngā mihi whānau. Me mihi kātika ki o koutou, te whānau o MFM. Thank you for having myself, and ngā mihi e hoa. It's been a privilege to share the panel with you guys tonight. Such awesome people. So yeah, once again, big thank you to all the whānau e mātakitaki ana. Big thank you to be here, and big privilege to be here. So kia ora.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, bro. Kia ora, Shelley, kia koe te wā.
Yeah, I just want to first mihi to MFM and for you, Leon, for hosting us tonight. It was a cool as opportunity to be able to speak our minds as rangatahi and share our experiences. And to our whānau watching, thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to listen to us. So yeah, kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Shelley. A koe hoki maringi, kia koe te wā.
Yeah, just like to say, as everyone else has said, just a big thanks to MFM for letting us share all our 5 cents tonight. And yeah, thank you to the panelists. There were so many hidden gems throughout your guys' kōrero that I'll put in my own kete, and I know that our whānau will too. And yeah, thanks to our whānau for tuning in tonight. It's been awesome. And yeah, look for Prime Minister. I totally call that.
Ngā mera for Prime Minister.
Maybe all our Debbie can help us.
Yeah.
There we go. They're ready, Debbie. They are ready to roll. Tēnā koutou, our rangatahi panelists, e mihi ana kia koutou i tēnei pō. Ngā nui te mihi. Wale te whānau, that is us for another night. I'll reiterate what our whānau have said. It's been a pleasure hosting this evening and a pleasure being amongst some of these brilliant minds. Definitely a pleasure and an honour. So with that said, e mihi ana kia koutou e mātakitaki mai ana. Have a good night e te whānau. Be safe, look after yourselves, look after your whānau, and we'll see you on another te Nehenehenui, te Puna Kōrero o te Nehenehenui next time. Nō reira, e mihi ana kia koutou, pō Māori e.
Pō Māori.
Tumari.
Mm.